In our first story, the Northern region has recorded 3 more cases of coronavirus. One is from the Tolong district, a head porter who returned to the area, while the other 2 from Nanumba South district. Now, health officials have begun contact tracing of these cases. Now, these results are coming from testing centers that are across the country, but particularly a new one at the Tamale Teaching Hospital Public Health Laboratory, which began testing last Thursday. The Northern Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. John Eliza, said this when he gave a situational report of the COVID-19 cases in the Northern region.
Over the weekend, from our new testing place here, we had additional 3 new cases being positive. One from the Tolong district, which is a Kaya who came from Accra, and then 2 from Nanumba South who had contacts to the cases that were sent to us from OT region. So that's how come we got the 3 new cases, which means our total number will change from the 13 to the 16 if they update it nationally. Let me say that the other information maybe we need to let the public know is that the Guineans, we have said all along that 4 of them have recovered, and therefore we have discharged them. The remaining 3, we continue trying to test them. Good to inform you that one of them also has recovered, so now we have 5 of them recovering. We have 2 left to recover, and the game with them will be over. We hope that the next test will do. The remaining 2 will also remain negative the second consecutive time. Then we'll be able to declare them also as fully recovered. So that's the situation with the Guineans that we had. The other situation I want to draw attention to is that, yes, it is true that as a region, we are having official number of 13 cases, but we actually have, per the reporting pattern, those cases that were picked up in OT are being managed here, because when they tested them, they just tested and they moved on. So when they came here, before the results came, we found out they were positive, so we had to go and then start taking care of them. So we have those 6 cases that were positive for OT in our region, which are being taken care of. We have 2 of them in Nanumba North, 3 of them were in Nanumba South, and 1 in Pandai district. So that's how the spread of those numbers have come. And then we had an additional 2 again from who were in the OT badge, who had also become positive, and these ones are in Nanumba North. So now, as we speak, Nanumba North, we have 4 positive cases. Nanumba South, we have 5 positive cases, and Pandai, we have 1.
So how many persons do you have in total at the treatment center?
Oh, currently at our treatment center, the regional treatment center, which is in the TTH, we have 3 patients there, because the others are in the holding areas for the various districts. Like Nanumba, they have a place where they are keeping them. Some of them too were cases that could be managed from home, so we're just doing that. Then the Tolong one is supposed to be in their holding area here.
The Ghana Water Company is warning the public against illegal water connections, as persons found guilty would be made to face the rigors of the law. The warning comes on the back of complaints from residents of Choco right here in Accra that they're currently not enjoying government COVID-19 water relief packages, even though some 60 million is supplied to the Accra West area where the suburb is. The Minister for Sanitation, Cecilia Dapar, who has been touring the area to assess the impact of the President's initiative, has meanwhile asked caretakers in charge of the community water tanks in the area not to serve residents who show up without masks. Nancy Emefajiradosi has more in this report.
Empty gallons, buckets and basins lined up at various distribution points at Choko as residents wait for their turn to be served. At the first distribution point, the caretaker gave an outline of how he ensures the over 2,000 residents in his area benefit from the 10,000 litres of water daily.
The tap is not open the whole day. We open it first in the morning and open it again in the afternoon for those who are not around to fetch.
The Sanitation Minister, Madam Cecilia Dapa, who was impressed with the arrangement, advised residents not to waste water.
Excellent arrangement. So please, I will entreat you not to waste the water. There should be a receptacle here. This shouldn't be too full so that you don't pour the water around. And people should continue doing the protocol.
At the next distribution point, crowds were gathered as usual. Madam Grace, the caretaker, seized the opportunity to announce the water was inadequate.
So how is it going?
Very fine.
So in a day you serve the whole tank?
It's sometimes three
a day?
A day.
That
but
means
it doesn't reach
6,000.
us, yes. But it's not enough for us.
Wow.
Because the down people over there, they don't have them.
So what do you say to government?
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
But we need one more
additional. I will inform
him. For the down over there.
I will inform him.
Spotting that many residents were without nose mask, Madam Cecilia Dapa instructed the caretaker not to give access to anyone without a mask.
People should wear their masks when they come here. Why am I saying that? Because if I'm fetching my water and you don't have a mask and you talk into my water. So without a mask, don't let them fetch the water.
Meanwhile, the regional chief manager of the Ghana Water Company in charge of Accra West, Teku Kujo, is blaming challenges with water supply on illegal connections he says have so far increased.
60 million litres of water to these places on a daily basis.
Are you able to continue? Or is this something
Yes, because we cannot relent on our business in this time that we have this pandemic on our hands. So it is continuous, sustained work that we have to do to meet the demands of nearly 60 million gallons of water a day to our customers.
Is there any challenge that you face so far?
Well, the challenge now we are facing is people taking to do connections on their own because the water is free. A lot of people are trying to connect to our mains on their own, which we don't think is right. We want people to come to us, then together we can know where our water is going, then we can monitor what we are all doing.
In other news, the prime suspect in the murder of the assemblyman for Sogakope South is said to have confessed that the deceased was killed because he tried to fight back. Marcus Ajahli was shot several times on March 1 this year by some assailants who broke into his home in an incident that left residents in shock. Briefing residents on the progress of investigations on cases of national interest, Director General for Police Criminal Investigations, COP Isaac Kenyabwa, says the suspect have refuted the contract killing claim by some opinion leaders.
Amos has provided information as to where they met to strategize before they went for the robbery and the role each played. He confessed that he together with one of the persons on the run shot the deceased after the deceased put up resistance, which made Ajay to stab him. On 9th of February, the police from Ho arrested Vincent Jotepe, alias Ajay, 34, at Sogakope, and has been identified as the leader by Amos. According to suspect Amos, the murder of Mauto was, and I repeat, was as a result of resistance by the disease during the attack, and that it was not a contract killing. Efforts are being made to arrest 2 members who are on the run. The 5 suspects have been remanded into police custody.
And before we go, as part of measures to curb the many road traffic accidents, which claim over 2,000 lives in Ghana annually, the Northern Regional Minister is calling on the National Road Safety Authority to introduce on-the-spot fine for drivers who leave their broken-down vehicles on the road. Alhaji Salifu Said says scores of lives have been lost in the country as a result of these faulty vehicles often left in the middle of the road. He tells Joy News until such an action is taken to serve as a deterrent, that norm of drivers abandoning their faulty vehicles on the road would not end. Alhaji Salifu Said spoke to Joy News as part of our own Arrive Alive campaign.
If the road safety units, they can come out with on-the-spot fines to vehicles owners whose vehicle gets breakdown on the roads, and they don't move them immediately out of the major roads, because those things cause deadly accidents. Like somebody have a truck, either a long truck, a tractor, a combine, a grader, a tipper truck, they just park it just for the fact that there is a technical fault, and they leave the vehicle on the road. If they don't have money to fix the vehicle, they must look for tow vehicles to tow it on as well. The vehicle shouldn't stand for more than 24 hours on a road, because it is very common in our part of the country. And sometimes they are in some hidden corners, caves, and it's very terrible.
Talking about accidents, we have the bar, and Mamavi is going to apprise us of a case for which we had a ruling in our own court, a civil case for which some damages were being sought from an accident victim who suffered some paralysis as a result. And all of us will be the better when we wait for that content. And I hope that all of us will get educated. And it's right after the newspapers and sports, and I know definitely you're going to enjoy it. You're all going to get educated. And before then, please make sure you're always getting interactive. We are Facebook, Joy News on TV, and we also have at Joy News on TV, our Twitter handle. Go watch us live there. But in the meantime, that is if you're on the road, but you're watching us currently, stay glued. We'll be right back with the newspapers. Well, Mama V, you're here. Good morning. I hope you had a good night's sleep.
I have always been here.
Yeah. And today is the birthday of one of our own, Denicia.
Justice Baidu is your birthday today.
And Denicia too. Denicia.
Yeah, so happy birthday.
Yeah, to all of you.
When all of this passes, oh my God. And also one of our sound guys, Gregory Ajimai. It's your birthday as well. Yeah, Greg. Yeah. Enjoy your birthday. Yeah. This one too will pass and we will have a party. But we hope you're well. It's the 5th of May, 2020. Children get confused as they're home. Sometimes I get the question, Mommy, so what is today? Like, is it a Sunday or is it a Monday? Do you get that, Roland? Okay, your kids are much older.
Yeah,
so they don't get confused by things like that.
Not
it's
at all.
a very confusing period for even the younger kids.
Definitely.
But we will survive this one too.
Definitely. Well, we have to get into the newspapers.
Absolutely. I've got the Daily Graphic. I'll do the Times, the Finder, and the Daily Statesman. So let's start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Here's what's on the front page. Power bill relief takes effect. Exercise to cost government $1 billion Ghana cedis. There's the CEO of the ECG, Kwame Ajimai Budu. And if you check Facebook, sometimes people will post as the reliefs that they get when they go and buy electricity. Some of us are not enjoying it yet, but there are people who are showing evidence of the fact that they're getting those reliefs that was promised. Except that some people feel, maybe I should have spent a lot more electricity in March, then I'll get something really significant in the next 3 months. Yeah. I've seen 100, I think I've seen 65. Yeah, so people are enjoying it. Also, Fidelity Bank supports infectious disease facility with $1 million Ghana cedis. Medet pensioner was biochemist Edward Korte Papafio. And this is also one of the things coming out from that briefing by the police CID yesterday. 2 fetish priests at the center of this bizarre incident. We will be filling you in on some of the things, but we had one of our cameramen check out the place where they operate and some of the things. You won't believe it. You know, sometimes you think a fetish priest fetched water in a basket and it wasn't just leaking, so the basket could hold the water. If you see the pictures, Roland, they put rubber and things inside the basket to secure it before they pour the water in. You think it's magic? It's not.
No, but then they are not really fetish, because I've seen some magic being done before.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, well, you can go to the Adum website, by the way, and check out some of the pictures. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring you some of the things that they discovered. Oh my God. And to think that some of them say they can double your figures for you. They can't even double them themselves. And yeah. So don't fall for some of these things. 7 Burkinabe, 1 Ivorian illegal immigrants arrested. That story is also in the paper today. In the center spread, President Akufo-Addo remains focused on containing COVID-19. According to the Vice President, World Press Freedom Day marked. Cargo congestion at Tema Port reduces. That's how the center spread looks like, with those stories in there. On the back page, 4 new interchange for Kumasi feasibility studies completed. Minister inspects water services in Choko. We'll turn attention to the Ghanaian Times now. On the front page, traditional council places ban on drumming, noise making, May 11. On COVID-19, government shows leadership in managing economy, according to the Vice President. Confirmed COVID-19 cases jumped to 2,719. 294 recover, 18 die. Mandatory mask wearing starts tomorrow in Accra to curb spread of COVID-19. There's a picture of Ishmael Ashite, the Greater Accra Regional Minister. All right, on the back page of the paper, Kasina Nankana Group supports communities against COVID-19. Government starts supplying free water to Choko. Choko is very famous this morning. The Finder, front page of the Finder, NPP is better than NDC in managing crisis, according to the Vice President, Dr. Baumia. All 7 COVID-19 patients at Kolebu recover and discharged. Ghana's confirmed COVID-19 cases hit 2,719 with 294 recoveries. Sukriza makes 3 COVID-19 donations worth 45,000 Ghana cedis. I'm not sure I got the name entirely correct. Please forgive me if I didn't. The Daily Statesman front page. That's the last paper for me. Keeping faith with the people. 10 youth sports resource centers ready soon. Stop embarrassing yourself. Baumia Jabs Mahama over ununiform statement on economy. And 30 million lose jobs in America. There's a picture of the American presidents with this headline on the front page of the Daily Statesman. That's it. Okay. Coronavirus pandemic on the back page. Hard to see fans returning to football soon. That's according to the FA chair. You know, in England, there's a June 8th date that's been set for a possible resumption. But there are 20, at least doctors of some of the clubs, 20 of the clubs who've got issues that, well, I guess we will see being addressed. But Benedict will be here with details of all those conversations. Roland? Well, we also do know that the German league is expected to bounce back earlier than the English one, so we'll see how it goes. And it looks like so far everything should be in good stead for at least those who love football to be able to get something out of the sports that they love, but even for the bettors. All right, so we have to move on. Let's go to the Daily Guide newspaper. Has on the front page, human blood in gallons. Killer fetish priest confess
You see them, they have a drawing of a spider on their wall. Yeah. Okay. Tobinco COVID-19 drag out by June. Nana Amo-Tobin, the first executive chair of the Tobinco Group of Companies, is pictured beside that headline on the front page of the Daily Guide. We also do have, even Doomso, you couldn't manage. Baumia Jobs Mahama, COVID-19, now 2,719, and sandwiched between those two headlines is a picture of the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Baumia. Let's go to the back page. It has a picture of a player who has a Ghanaian parentage, but it's headline, I have sex 7 times a week, Inaki Williams admits, and it's in perspective. So in order for us, before I bring you, let me tell you the other stories that are there. We have multipurpose youth centers, 80% completed. Sylvester Mensah Tete, who is the CEO for the National Youth Authority, is there. MPC president calls for government support, and the MPC is the National Paralympic Committee. Internationally, is still also on edge because of the crisis. Don't know whether you know, they'll have their gains, because Tokyo, Japan, you know, there was some consensus that should be called off, and many of them still don't have a head up on what the latest will be on this. But I have begged for money on streets, and former Manchester United defender who also played for Inter Milan as well. We have Patrice Evra, the French player. All right, and this story about have sex 7 times a week, it's also, if I have to put in perspective, it says the 25-year-old with Ghanaian parents says that his sexual activity has increased because of lockdown. So he told a YouTube channel, I already said it's in on a program that I dumped 4 powders, had sex 4 times per week, but now I will tell you that it is 7 out of 7. 7 times a week. So each day of the week, he's on the wrong paging. Let's go to the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Daily Dispatch has on the front page the latest as to what's happening within the camp of the MPP. As they have their parliamentary primaries coming up. You know, it was slated to have been convened in April. Just didn't happen because of coronavirus lockdown related issues. And then we have the headline on the front page of the Daily Dispatch captured as MPP's parliamentary primaries. Amwakoto 4, that will be Dr. Amwakoto 4, warning MPP about protecting MPs. John Boedu, who is the General Secretary of the party, is also pictured there. We're talking about the Daily Dispatch newspaper. This is how it looks like. We'll try and get it on your screens. Yeah, we've gotten it right. And it's all about internal party wranglings. They usually face this a lot more when they are in power. The parties, both MPP and DC, they face it. Yeah, so we have 2,719 confirmed cases. All the latest update here for you. 18 deaths so far, 294 recoveries. And Greater Accra is leading the race as expected, 2,332. Ashanti follows with 124. The Eastern Region, 94. We have Central Region 38, Volta 30, Oti 23, Western Region 21, Upper West Region 19, Upper East Region 19, Northern Region 13, Western North Region 4. I think there's a region that's not, that should be Bono, and the Bono, all the Bono regions, yeah. Aren't we doing contact tracing there? Wow, skip so far. That's a good one. Okay, so we also do have in tomorrow's dispatch what you should expect, how Ghana can vote in this COVID era. Yeah, they're going to provide us with data and science, facts, how we can vote. And I think we could easily do it. I mean, if we wanted to, we can sit home and vote. But you know, the parties will accuse each other of manipulation. Somebody hacking into the system and manipulating the results. So it's never gonna happen. At least I know in my generation. I'm sure in my generation it's not gonna happen. Oh, yeah. I have more decades to live, so maybe it will happen. If we have my contemporary being the president, I think that will help. Okay, so we have 15% pay rise hit civil servant accounts. It's a good one. Amid COVID, you are getting 15% pay rise. Charlie, what more do you want? And it says civil servants have been smiling to the bank as their salaries have seen a 15% pay rise from the month of March. Now, the pay rise was agreed far back as August 2016 and effected in March 2020, as a result bringing some relief to civil servants in such difficult times.
Wow. So
the imposition of restrictions, blah, 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 continues. And the pay rise came into effect after the Ministry of Finance directed the Controller and Accountant General that, look, from March, pay them 15%.
This is interesting. Because, you know, I spoke to at least 2 of the top hotels in the country, and one is completely shut. They are not even doing restaurant services. And the other, well, they're considering, because they're using their bigger facility with air conditioners and everything on, so they're paying high electricity. But the one that's completely shut, this is it. They haven't sacked workers, but they're paying them, they've slashed the salary, and workers are not happy. And I've just been thinking, you know, yesterday we started this conversation about some people who have lost their jobs, people haven't been paid. And I was thinking, you know, elsewhere, I have a friend in the UK who was also faced with the option of cats.
Lose job.
Exactly. So he has a cat, but he's super excited because he still has a job, because there are others who totally lost their jobs. And I was thinking that, you know, we have to be considerate if the hotel is completely shut and not operating, which means you're home and you're not going to work, and they can afford to pay you half your salary for a while. I think you should, you know, you should thank God. I mean, it's not a perfect situation. We're not like those civil servants who have an increase, an increment, not because it was arrived yesterday, but this was way back, except that it took effect in March. You should be grateful, really. I was just thinking, it's really hard. Listen, there are a lot of stories underneath that people are simply not sharing, but there are people really struggling in these times.
I think we can find some time if we can do 50 minutes of just open conversations with our viewers, just open the phone lines for them to tell us their stories about their work. Just as part of the series we're doing, how coronavirus now is going to affect the working environment, because I think that there are 2 parts to it. The ones that genuinely have been affected by coronavirus based on the sector in which they operate, and so the shareholders have no option than to rationalize or cut down staff because of its incremental effect, net effect on the wage bill. And then 2, the ones that shareholders and management will take a decision because it is the best thing to do for the business. Because at the end of the day, you need a return on your investment. And if COVID is coming in and to the advantage of the business, you can cut down on costs of operations. It's a decision you have to take. You look at the humanitarian side and the business side. And I know many people will not agree, but people are in business or have set up business because they want to make some returns on investment. At the end of the day, when they make more money, they tend to reinvest it into other areas or same business line in the country or wherever they operate.
Charlie, it's not easy. Today you have a job, tomorrow you don't, and you have a family, you've got mouths to feed. And I tell you, the kids are home. Hey, by the way, the food is running, the snacks, you know, like the fridge is there, they just go and open and ask and when and take whatever.
Mama V, just think about those even who don't have fridges.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it means that once you don't have a fridge, it means that you don't have maybe a fan, or you just have a fan, you know.
Yeah.
So you can think about
these are very hard times.
Yeah, very difficult. That is why when you have some, you need to extend to others.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, when we were sharing food, remember when we were extending that hand to people who simply couldn't afford? I was thinking to myself, there are people who are living in a gated house, in a place where you're not thinking somebody's hungry, but they absolutely have nothing, but they can't go out there and go and queue and say they are looking for food. There are people who are really struggling. So I agree with you. We should sometime talk about our issues. Just activate the phone line so people can join us. We have about 10 minutes, right?
Yes, we do.
Can. Okay.
I think 8 minutes actually.
Okay. So any story that you want to highlight more before we do myjoyonline.com? I don't know. I'm just drawn to this fetish priest story, and when we do myjoyonline.com, we'll bring you a lot more on that. Yeah. And
I just wanted to talk about the MPP's parliamentary primaries. We're expecting it, and about how it looks like certain individuals are being protected, whether covertly or overtly by individuals, strong bigwigs. And it doesn't happen only in the MPP. We see it too when the NDC is in power. And we have to live true to our tenets of democracy. Look, if somebody wants to contest, yes, the person should contest. I believe that first-time MPs at least need to be protected by the parties. That is my position.
Well,
it's not democratic.
One breath you're talking about democracy, another breath you're talking about protection.
Yes.
So which is which?
I'm saying that democracy needs to thrive in the parties. But I believe that the parties need to work around at the background to protect first-time MPs. Because we've been in this country, we've seen individuals who have been very good at what they do, helping grow our democracy. At the end of the day, the party sometimes just doesn't protect them enough. And
so why are you making this call? There are some very vibrant first-timers that you think are going to fall?
No, I don't have. I'm talking about based on precedent, what has happened in the past. Yes, and not that we have vibrant, because all MPs, at least those at the front line, should be vibrant. Those who communicate for their parties, communicate for their constituencies, and do the work of parliament that we all do know are very good at what they do. It's because they've learned the ropes. Now, sometimes I feel quite bad that for a first-timer who has just learned the rope is very good at, or getting good at what that person, he or she is doing.
That person is voted out.
Yeah, and
I always remember Mr. George Lowe.
Yeah.
Very fantastic guy.
Yeah,
but
definitely. You see?
I get it. I feel you. But it's just what it is.
Yeah, democracy.
And I'm sure are you driving towards Ashanti region somewhere, a place near the Confanochi Teaching Hospital? Okay, let's do myjoyonline.com. We're not mentioning names here. We haven't had nothing. Nothing. I'm just using, I think I miss Kumasi. So good morning to all the health workers at the Confanochi Teaching Hospital. Radiology department.
They call them G.
Okay, now let's do myjoyonline.com, and here's a story, something that I've been talking about. 2 fetish priests murdered and buried a biochemist, others at their shrine. Both fetish priests hail from the Volta region, according to the story, but they reside at Mame Dede near Adeso. Now, if you go to adumonline.com, you'll find pictures and some of the things located in, what they found when they went to the shrine. Like one priest actually visited the other priest. They're actually friends. Okay, and some of the unbelievable things that they do that is so believable, but, after you discover from the pictures, you realize, yeah. So this is the place actually called Powerhouse. Yeah. The police raided the place. So on April 29, both suspects admitted having interacted, and this is because a person went missing a person went missing, and the two admitted having interacted with the missing person for some time, but he was later shot and killed on January 15 this year at their shrine. The suspect reiterated the deceased was buried at a particular spot within the shrine and led the police to the scene. The area was secured for an exhumation order to be granted by the court. On April 30, the police, including pathologists and other forensic experts, went to Mami Dede and executed the exhumation. The pathologist retrieved the decomposed body from a grave. A second decomposed body, whose name the suspect Gamali gave as Kwesi Zomalo, also from Kaswa, was retrieved from another grave. The team later exhumed human parts, hair attachments, beads belonging to a woman. Police suspect the bones from a third grave within the same perimeter. A decomposed human flesh with bones wrapped in a cloth buried among the bodies was also retrieved from another grave. The team in addition retrieved human skulls together with bones suspected to be human hidden under 2 idols in the house. This sounds like a movie, like one of those very exaggerated movies that I would see and say, but this is actually like real life, you know. And the people who live in the community say they usually would hear gunshots at night. You'd hear the sound of a vehicle drive into the compound of the house. Everything goes quiet. You hear gunshots, and then you hear people talk, and then after a while, you hear a moving vehicle again. But you know, the MC, I listened to the MC on our sister station at Semper FM on Kosi Sen, who said, well, surprisingly, people within the community did not alert the authorities. So it's now that this discovery has been made by the police, now you hear a lot of residents say all sorts of things. So there are a lot of things going around about these 2 fetish priests at the center of this, who we're told confessed to killing a man who we now know was a biochemist. They actually found his phone. So I guess the tracing was done through the phone. Charlie.
Very sad.
Oh.
Very sad.
Okay, so there are plenty other stories on myjournline.com.
Okay.
I thought we'll highlight on this one a bit more.
Well, thank you, Mama V. Now let me do what I have to do at this time of the morning. We've told you all the updates from myjournline.com. But this one, it's coming from somebody who used to work here, but also now works with the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Famous Achichogbi, and you can trust Famous. This is how he put it. Special birthday dedications to my mother, Angela Usu, and wife, Yvonne Welbeck Achichogbi, CEO of Javon Couture. It's a double celebration, and I pray the heavens will descend upon them in a special way.
Hallelujah.
From a proud son and husband, Famous Kwesi Achichogbi.
All right.
Well, I have another one. Yeah. Okay. So I have happy birthday wishes to Mama Ife, host of Obra Show in Shira FM. You are 60 years today. It's coming from all of us here, the CEO, Ken and Sam, our own Elvis Kwashi, and the rest of the team.
Well, later on this morning, we'll bring you The Bar. Remember, we started last week. It's a segment where we highlight on some legal issues that, you know, would help you. And this one that we're bringing today is one that gives a lot of hope and is linked to our Arrive Alive campaign. There's a man who was involved in an accident, got paralyzed, impotent, couldn't continue his work. Case traveled from the High Court, went through the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. He got an incredible judgment that represents hope to all of you pursuing a case particularly involving an accident. We've got details coming up, but first we have to bring you sports.
Time to talk sports here on AM Show. I'm Benedict Owusu. Always a pleasure joining you on this platform. In our very first story this morning, the Ghana FA has by close of day today to report to CAF their decision with regards to the strategies they intend to apply to finalize their competitions, be it through completion or annulment. Now, Joado, a former international relations manager at Accra Hearts of Oak, wants the FA to take the best decision.
It's a double-edged sword because, you know, you cancel the league, those who have invested so much, especially the club owners. Look, when I was playing, I didn't really care about the club owners. But then when I came to be an administrator to work for Hearts of Oak and Brekum Chelsea, I saw what the club owners go through. And for all that money spent, you know, you can't just say, let's cancel the league just because. It's very difficult. Also, you can't just say, let's play the league. You know, there's a pandemic. So something has to be done. But it's a double-edged sword. And I think That's why the FA president is there, the football administrator is there. That's their job to decide. For me personally, I think health is more important than entertainment, but that's my take. It might be different on somebody else. I think the pandemic has opened our eyes to so many things, and if lives could be saved by us not playing, then so be it.
Okay.
But it's a double-edged sword. It's very difficult.
All right, so former Ghana defender Joe Addo is speaking on what the Football Association must do, and he says that decision should be left to the FA, and of course it should be left to the Football Association. So let's go live and speak to Henry Asante, who is Communications Director of the GFA. Good morning, my brother. Now, the FA has, have you taken any decision on whether the league will go on and when that is going to happen?
Good morning, Benedict.
Yes, good morning.
The simple answer to your question is no.
Okay.
We haven't taken any decision.
But you have by close of day to report to CAF, so what are you going to tell them?
Well, the communique that came from CAF was not instructive.
Okay.
It wasn't binding. CAF said, we would appreciate if you get back to us by 5th May.
Okay.
That means we can send a situational report to CAF, give them an update as to what is currently happening in Ghana. Because you remember that when FIFA President Gianni Infantino spoke to the football world about 3 weeks ago, he mentioned that we should respect local protocols and deal with our respective governments.
Exactly.
So as we speak, the Ghana Football Association has been in dialogue with the government of Ghana. We have constantly held meetings with the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service. We want to respect their advice. We want to respect their directives. So it will be difficult for us to do something that is not, that is directly opposite what they have been telling us. So in that vein, we await the presidency, the health ministry, and the ministry and the Ghana Health Service to advise as regards the way forward for the country as a whole.
Okay.
Because the decision we took to close down the FA and to suspend football activities was purely based on their advice. So we cannot take a decision without them. That is where we are at this particular moment.
Okay. I know from last week, I mean, you engaged your members, the clubs, and on Zoom. Did any of these clubs express, their views on whether the league should be cancelled, or we wait for government, as you've mentioned, and the protocols to see if we can go ahead?
Yes, it's one of the issues that came up in our deliberations with these clubs. Some of them feel we should suspend the league. I can count, hands that were raised during the interaction with these clubs. Most of these clubs feel it is not conducive enough. And they have also been preaching safety. They have been talking about the fact that we must take precaution. So some feel we should cancel the league, truncate the league. Others feel we should give ourselves some time to see if things would improve in the coming days. At the end of the day, the powers vested in the Executive Council supersedes their independent views or opinions.
All right.
So the General Secretary, I remember, told them that all their concerns would be forwarded to the Executive Council for a decision.
Okay.
But it comes back to the point I raised earlier.
Yeah.
The Executive Council would heed to the advice of the Medical Service, the Ghana Health Service, and then the Ministry of Health. So at the end of the day, we have taken all those concerns into consideration. We summed everything up. Cases have been referred to the Executive Council, but engagements with government are still ongoing.
All right. Bro, thanks so much for your time this morning here on the show. So that was Communications Director of the Football Association, Henry Asante, speaking to me on whether the Football Association will cancel the Ghana Premier League or not. And it's not just the Ghana Premier League. We know we have other leagues here in the country. That's the Division 1, the Women's League as well. And the report that came from CAF, the letter that CAF sent the Football Association, and not just the FA, the member associations, that they are giving up to May 5. And as Henry mentioned, it wasn't binding. They said if they could get to them, reports to them on what their next line of action were going to be, whether to continue the Premier League or to suspend the league indefinitely or cancel at all. He says they are yet to take that decision, and that will be based on the protocols here in Ghana. Well, so we'll move on and do some more here on the local scene. And new Ashanti Gold sporting director Roy Arthur is keen on building on the already existing structures at the club to make them more competitive in Ghana and beyond. Now, Roy, a former CEO of BA United, is part of a new management put together by majority shareholder, that's Dr. Kwaku Frimpong, to run the affairs of the club following the exit of Frederick Champong. Roy Arthur has been speaking to Joy Sports.
I think it's one of the best roles in football, looking at my background and the way I've always led attack way back from BA United, Brekum Arsenals. I mean, I scout for good players, I manage good players very well, and Dr. Frimpong, knowing very well what I can do, he decided to appoint me as the sporting director. Oh, the structures, the players were very good. Ashgood has a good team, and I mean, I went closer to the team and I realized that it's one of the best clubs to work with. And I was motivated with, I mean, our last league that we played, I mean, they played very well, and I think, I mean, it was a good opportunity to continue from where they were. It is sign good quality players for Ashgood, make more transfers for Ashgood, and also bring the team to an appreciable level, looking at their background and all that. I think Ashgood should be placed well. So I think that I am ready to change the face of Ashgood.
Hello and welcome to The Bar. This week, I want to share the judgments of a personal injury case resulting from a road accident. The victim is unmarried and has a child with no prospects, according to the courts, of fathering any child again. The accident caused the victim to be paralyzed. Indeed, the medical report put his loss of genital functions as 100%, loss of mobility as 50%, and psychological injury as 60%. The events given rise to this case started on the 28th of April, 2009. The case was fought in the High Court in Kumasi, was reviewed and ruled upon on appeal by the Court of Appeal, and for a final and conclusive resolution, the case ended up in the Supreme Court and was decided finally in January 2020. The court was faced with the issue of the appropriate level of compensation to adequately compensate the plaintiff in his personal injury claim. There was also the issue of whether or not the courts could award a higher amount than what was claimed by the plaintiff. So, what's his story really? Well, a timber merchant hired a truck to cut his timber logs from Diaso near Dunko to Mim in the Denbuno Ahafo region. On reaching a place called Kwabinakuma, the vehicle was involved in an accident. The plaintiff sustained serious injuries and was first sent to Gorso Government Hospital and later transferred to the Komfo Anoche Teaching Hospital in Kumasi, where he received intensive care for about 5 months before being discharged to continue his treatment as an outpatient. In 2012, he sued the owner of the truck for the sum of 400,000 Ghana cedis, special and general damages for the negligence of the driver, resulting in the injury suffered in the accident. It turned out the vehicle was not insured, did not have a roadworthiness certificate, and the driver was also not licensed by law to drive the vehicle at the material time. So what did the High Court say? Well, in the judgment delivered on the 30th of October 2015, the court found that first, the accident was not caused by negligent driving because the evidence of the police was that the vehicle developed a fault and fell down. However, by permitting a vehicle to ply the road without valid documentation, that is roadworthiness certificates and insurance, as well as authorizing an unlicensed driver to drive the truck, the court held that the defendant should be held vicariously liable for the plaintiff's claim. So let's explain what vicarious liability is. That is where a person or entity is held for damages or harm caused by someone else. So now that we understand that, let's move on. And I'll give you an example. When an employer is held liable for the action of one of his employees. So back to our case. The judge then awarded the plaintiff general and special damages in the sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis. Remember, the victim was looking for 400,000. He got 20,000. Obviously, dissatisfied with the decision, he appealed to the Court of Appeal. And in May 2018, the Court of Appeal reversed the award on the assessment of damages made by the High Court and awarded the plaintiff damages, those that they could quantify and those that they couldn't, totaling 150,000 Ghana cedis. Remember, he was asking for 400,000. The first court gave him 20,000, and then this court gave him 150. You would think that he would go to court again and ask for a higher figure, but no. As the person on the other side, the defendant, he appealed to the highest court, the Supreme Court, requesting that they reverse the decision of the Court of Appeal and restore the award made by the High Court. Bear in mind, the Supreme Court is the last hope of the citizens. Let me tell you the judges who sat on this case. The Chief Justice, Kwesi Anini-Yeboah, presided. There was also Bafo Boni, Justice Apau, Puaman, and this man who ended up delivering the judgment, Justice Amegache. I'll share his words with you as he delivered this judgment. The time has come, and this is a quote, the time has come to be forward-looking and award realistic and comparable compensation to comparable injuries to adequately compensate for the long-term deformity, mental torture, and unimaginable losses suffered. This, we believe, will give affected persons hope that the states, for that matter, the justice delivery system, will not abandon them in their times of need. It will also serve as a deterrent to vehicle owners, drivers, professionals, and workers into whose care precious lives of people are trusted. In arriving at a decision, the court considered the following factors, and I want to run you through the lists. The fact that it is not in doubt that as a result of the accident, the victim became paralyzed and his condition is likely to remain for the rest of his life. He went on the track as a whole man, remember, human being, and after the accident came out on a stretcher and has been so ever since. The plaintiff has gone through considerable pain and suffering, according to the court, that he cannot work as a timber merchant again and has no prospect of getting any paid job from any employer. It is not out of place to describe plaintiff as a total wreck and a citizen of this country with reduced capacity to enjoy the pleasures of life again. And these are words from the judgment. Again, they said he is incapable of doing anything by himself, cannot get an erection again, and is totally incontinent for the rest of his life. The victim's condition is the worst that can happen to any human being, according to the Supreme Court. It's also interesting to note that the court factored in inflation, the purchasing power of money, and the economic factors of the day. The court also indicated that in June 2012, when the action was instituted claiming 400,000 Ghana cedis, the exchange rate of the United States dollars to the Ghana cedis was $1 to 1 cedi 89 pesos. And in January this year, when they finally decided the case, the US dollar was 5 cedis 60 pesos. The value of the initial claim made by the plaintiff had therefore diminished over the 8 years that the case had lingered on in the courts. So after considering all these factors, the court awarded the following damages. And I'm going to show you in a form that you can appreciate. So they broke it down and they gave pre-trial loss of earnings 5,000 Ghana cedis. They also gave special damages for medical expenses at 10,000 Ghana cedis. Future loss of earnings for 21 years at 800 cedis per month comes up to 201,600. Nursing attendance for 2 nurses at 500 Ghana cedis per month for 21 years, totaling 126,000. General damages for pain, suffering, mental agony, loss of amenities, loss of expectation of life, physical disabilities, and loss of sexual pleasures, totaling 280,000 Ghana cedis. And everything sums up to 622,600. So in the end, the court varied the award by the Court of Appeal from 150,000 Ghana cedis to over 600,000 Ghana cedis. This is something that rarely happens. Often, well, they would either give what you're asking, keep it low, but sometimes in instances like this, as you've seen, with all the justifications, they raise the figure. So here's how I want to conclude on the bar. It is a fact that the productive lives are being rendered disabled due to serious injuries as a result of road crashes. According to the police MTTD, 94% of road crashes are caused through human error. Often, the criminal process leaves victims disappointed with the paltry fines imposed on corporate as punishment. Take, for instance, the case of the woman in her late 20s who was left paralyzed by an unlicensed driver driving a vehicle not roadworthy. He was only fined less than 1,000 Ghana cedis, yet his victim continues to live with a disability. In the words of Justice Omegache, in this case that I have just taken you through, he said, quote, "It could have been avoided, but for the recklessness on our roads, coupled with impunity, indiscipline, and lack of value for human life by drivers who ply the roads in this jurisdiction," unquote. So for all those in similar situations, you can seek remedies from the court. Hopefully, this brings you hope. Stay with us.
Oh, that was great education by Mama Vio Sabwaja. I could still see the pictures again outlining how we can seek remedies before the court, just in case any of us is involved in an accident and we feel that we can pray to the court to get some section of the law on our side. But again, we run by you that we'll be having an interaction with the Member of Parliament for Nocton, a former Deputy Education Minister, but also a ranking for the Committee for Foreign Affairs in Parliament, and Samuel Kujeto Ablakwa is here. Good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Roland. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. But when we have to do the overall conversation, I have to say that I first have to ask, I haven't asked you this before, how's your family?
They're doing well.
Yeah, great.
Doing very
I've been monitoring a lot on your Facebook page, and you seem to have a lot of activities, especially starting within the period when we had the lockdown or the restrictions before the lockdown, and now we've even lifted it. A lot of interaction. The last I saw was you having a virtual town hall meeting of a sort. How did it go?
Thank you, Roland. Let me convey greetings to all our distinguished viewers, and thank you very much for having me. Our virtual town hall meeting, which is the first we have had, and I believe the first in the history of the constituency, went very, very well. The feedback has been enormous. I was amazed with the level of enthusiasm, the engagement, and the fact that all facets of the constituency made time to engage. Chiefs, queen mothers, young people, and the youth were more vibrant, obviously, because they are the more tech savvy population. And I must say that it's been very, very useful. We all know that because of the times we live in, there is social distancing, physical distancing. You can gather people above 25 in compliance to the Imposition of Restrictions Act. And it's all in our collective interest to make sure that we contain and limit the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. And so you have to be creative. You have to be creative. You don't use that as an excuse as a political leader to say that because of these impositions, so you will rather be AWOL or go missing. in your constituency. You have to still engage, you have to still be accessible, you have to still make yourself available to the people, subject yourself to scrutiny, because there are still very important issues. Even on the pandemic, education ought to go down. People still want to understand exactly what they have to do to keep safe. Public education must be carried out, and members of parliament have that close engagement. They speak the language of their people listen to them, they have high credibility. And so when you join forces with the public health experts, with the Information Services Department and the NCC staff, you are able to enhance the communication. So it went very well. And let me add that right from the inception, we have been doing a lot in our constituency. As soon as the president announced on the 12th, on the 12th of March that Ghana has reported 2 cases, the next day, less than 24 hours after that, we convened a meeting of all the health workers, the public
in the constituency,
with the health directorate, the medical superintendent at the Bator Catholic Hospital, Dr. Tuguba, the head of the cervical cancer screening center, Dr. Kofi Efa, and others. And we strategized. So we put together a task force, and they provided a list of what we would need. And God willing, I was able to quickly mobilize resources and provided the items needed. It included PPEs, it included the usual hygiene requirements, detergents, Veronica buckets, hand sanitizers, and all of that. We did also add other equipments like infrared thermometers. We created a triage center at all our hospitals. Then we set out to expand an abandoned facility, renovate it, and expand it for an isolation center. So we have an isolation center. And then we decided that as a district, we will insure all our frontline health workers. So we were the first to insure our frontline health workers for 1 year, a comprehensive insurance which covers our frontline health workers.
You mean with the National Health Insurance Scheme?
No, with Glyco, with Glyco Insurance.
Okay. So you went private?
Yes, we went private.
As a public official, you don't trust the National Health Insurance?
No, you know, National Health Insurance does not carry out. We are talking about comprehensive life insurance, not insurance for healthcare, what we all use. Yeah. This is
a normal life insurance.
This is policy. A normal life insurance policy. Yeah, because of the risk. If something happens to you, we can take good care of you financially, your spouse, your children, all the way to the graduate. So very enhanced terms.
What did you notice while you were having these interactions with the health officials about the provision of PPEs and other forms of protective equipment in the first place?
It appears to me that there is a challenge with the distribution chain. Those of us removed from the capital, outside Accra, continue to see lack of attention, inadequate supply of these PPEs in particular. Only yesterday, the medical superintendent in a discussion with me said that so far the Bator Catholic Hospital has received only 17 PPEs. That's not acceptable. Yes, and that's a major facility. That's a frontline health facility. You've heard the Ghana Medical Association reps in the Ashanti region complain about inadequate supply of PPEs, and there are reports coming from all over the country. So you've had to see, individuals like former President Mahama, corporate institutions stepping in to assist. Meanwhile, when we listen to the president, he mentions huge figures, and we know that we've had some donations as well, the Jack Ma Foundation, Chinese government, the United States government. So is it an issue with the distribution, how to ensure that it is accessible and it reaches every part of Ghana?
So you are in no doubt that at least we have enough PPEs, at least to cover some of the pressings or the community that are closest to the capital. That's what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that if the president's announcements are to be believed, then it is a challenge with distribution, how to get the items in the districts, because we are not seeing the key protective gear that our frontline healthcare workers need. I cannot speak for government whether we have adequate supply. I cannot. I want to take government by its word when government says that they have a good number in stock. But the point I'm making is that we are not getting it, and we must be concerned about that. The other interventions that we have carried out in the North Tongue constituency is that we have mobilized all the local tailors and dressmakers, and we are producing face masks. So far, 20,000 face masks for free distribution. And we are doing that in the spirit of what the health experts have told us, that when you wear your face mask, you protect yourself and you protect others. And you do know that since the lifting of the lockdown, the President Akufo-Addo has admonished that as much as possible, wear a face mask. And if you are stepping out of your house, make sure that you are putting on a face mask. And so these face masks must be made available. We thought that when we mobilize local dressmakers and tailors, remember that SMEs are struggling in these times. Nobody is attending social gatherings, weddings, funerals.
The SMEs are struggling, but at least we do know that there's a package that has been announced that will be supervised and disbursement by the NBSSI. So that has been taken care of. And I'm sure you're a member of Parliament, so those approvals were done by you as well.
Yes, but first of all, that amount, 600 million cedis, is woefully inadequate. Two, we are waiting for the criteria for disbursement. It's not yet been operationalized. So we are all looking forward to what the criteria will be, and we hope that it will be a fair, transparent criteria, not subjected to any familial or, if you like, subjective dictates. But back to what we are doing in the constituency, we're making sure that our SMEs, the tailors, the dressmakers, get some business, revive their business activity because of the dwindling fortunes. And at the same time, we are making sure that we keep safe. We are glad to note that so far, not a single case out of the 17 suspected cases, all have turned out to be negative. And so we are keeping the virus out of our constituency. I must indicate also that we have done other interventions, which includes the distribution of over 6,000 books to our students who are at home. As you know, schools have been closed, and in largely rural constituencies like mine, where online learning is a luxury and distance learning is not that, far-reaching, what you do is to make sure that you ensure that they all have reading materials. And so we mobilized over 6,000 books, which we have distributed to all students and pupils at home. You do also know that we converted all our party vehicles, rebranded them into public education vans. We put out COVID-19 outreach, and there are all kinds of the protocols, well designed, and we're using it because we don't have the NCC,
just to ensure that
the NCC in our district.
Information goes down there.
Yes, it goes down there, and in partnership with the public health workers, and it's been going very well. We've also renewed the health insurance cards for 1,500 people, and during the lockdown, we reached out to our constituents in the lockdown areas who needed support, and we did cash transfers to about 240 of them. So it's been quite a busy time, but we are all putting our shoulders to the wheel to make sure that our people are protected and kept safe.
As a former Deputy Education Minister, and you were in charge of tertiary. Okay.
Yes.
Now, you look at the initiatives so far that have been taken for tertiary institutions to be able to continue teaching and learning. And we were able to aggregate many of the vice chancellors and the various chancellors right here, and the directors of academics at the various universities on this channel. You look at the means by which they've enabled students to be able to get some form of education. That should be commendable in any way.
Absolutely. And I recall that when we served at the Ministry of Education, we carried out enormous investments in providing the infrastructure for online and distance education. I recall the major broadband installation that former President Mahama supervised, and that is what stretches from Greater Accra all the way to the OT region. And so a new university like UHAS, the University of Health and Allied Sciences, is today able to carry out online learning for all of its students, and lecturers are able to engage with their students because of that
you mean the fiber optic?
That fiber optic,
okay.
you know, investment that was made. I also recall that the University of Ghana, I was even asked to commission that project. We launched their online, and it was a support from the government of Ghana and the Chinese government. We launched their online portal, again, making sure that the needed fiber optic cables are provided. So I'm happy today to see that all of these investments have come in handy. And I think that it's a wake-up call that the old ways of doing things, because in other jurisdictions, even before COVID-19, I mean, they made more use of technology, and it was a beautiful mix between the physical presence, going to the lecture room to meet your lecturer, which has a lot of advantages, which must be regarded. But you also must create the needed platform for students to be able to learn at all times. Those who even do other activities, who are workers and all of that, should be able to work and even be able to learn from work and from other engagements that they have. So I'm glad to be seeing these investments. Remember also that there was massive distribution of laptops at the time under former President Mahama. Unfortunately for the laptop programs, it appears that those social interventions are no longer being carried out. I will have hoped,
because the laptops broke down, they were not good enough.
I will have hoped that it's better than none. And remember that we were encouraging local producers. So, I mean, you remember how Toyota started? Toyota today is one of the top vehicles. Kia and all of that. Hyundai, yeah. So it's always good to invest in your own. And we had told the local manufacturers to step up, and with more of these contracts, they will get better. And so I want to see that aspect as well taken care of, even if it will be some subsidy, even if it will be fees probably being reduced, so that students can buy laptops, can have gadgets, if it's iPads or tablets or mobile phones that they will use to be able to be more useful in the cyberspace. It will be helpful. So I'm glad to see the strides that we are making, but let's remember that it's still quite expensive. There's a lot more we can do in providing gadgets. Then I'm also concerned about the cost of data. And our flag bearer, the former president, has been advocating for some time now that we should do something about the cost of data, because this is a time that many people are working from home. Students are using online portals. You need to ensure that the cost of data is affordable. Look at the imposition of the communication service tax, for example, 50%. We can take that off. Former President Mahama has made that suggestion. If you take that off, it will drive down the cost of data. Another option available to us is that very soon the telcos licenses will be up for renewal. You can defer the renewal because it comes to them at huge cost. Very, very, very expensive to renew your license. So you can defer that, and then the windfall will be plowed back for customers to benefit. That will also drive down the cost of data. So it's not only an issue of the end user and how the universities are positioning themselves and creating the online environment. But it has to do with so many other facets, the costs of data and the support we can give to students in terms of these gadgets that will help us realize the full potential of IT education.
In February, I believe by close of February, you were advocating that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, indeed the government of Ghana, should evacuate Ghanaian students from China or Wuhan specifically within the Hubei province. Do you regret that decision in the first place, looking at how government has put in place the outlines for fighting coronavirus?
I'm glad you bring this matter up. I have absolutely no regret for that position. I am very proud, rather very, very proud about that position that I took. And I must quickly dispel that fake news. You know, the WHO has said that they are not only fighting a pandemic, they are also fighting an infodemic. Government propagandists have said that, oh, if we had listened to Okudzeto Ablakwa, Ghana will by now be like Italy, be like France, be like America, because Italy, France, America evacuated their students, and see what has happened to them. Blatant falsehood. That is fake news. Check the cursory reading. The cases, the first cases in all of these countries had nothing to do with evacuation. Indeed, the science shows that evacuation is your best bet, because evacuation follows protocols. Before you evacuate any group of people, you test them to be sure that they are negative. If you are positive, you don't go on board the flight. When you have arrived at your destination, you are quarantined. You are put under compulsory quarantine for not less than 14 days. And you are checked. There's a video of the South Africa student evacuation, Cyril Ramaphosa. You know,
I've watched that.
Yes, you've watched that video. And then he says that, look, it's after 14 days, you are all clear. It's now been moved from a red zone to a green zone. You can all go home. So evacuations are your safest things. I say that it did not make sense that when you prevented our students from coming in, you refused to evacuate our students, yet you kept the borders opened. Several weeks, you kept the borders open. And flights were coming in even from China. Remember that the Wuhan epidemic spread to mainland China. And so many countries stopped flights, including the United States of America. They were the first country to stop flights from China. Then other countries followed. We in Ghana, we blocked our students from coming. We said it was too risky, it was dangerous. Something that no country does. When you are a nation, your ability to take your nationals from harm's way. All those who were saying, oh, it was a reckless call, it was not safe. Will you say same if it was your child in that situation? If you were the student in Wuhan? So the over 100 countries who evacuated, are we saying that we are wiser than those countries? In Africa, look at the number of countries that evacuated their students from Wuhan. You can mention South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya evacuated their students. Mauritania, Kenya, they all evacuated their students from Wuhan. So even when you listen to government at the time, there were conflicting reasons. First, they claimed that it was too risky. Then you had the foreign minister say that because we didn't have a national carrier. Then I had to point out that, look, if your excuse is that we don't have a national carrier, other countries are collaborating. They're having bilateral, multilateral collaboration. New Zealand and Australia, for example, use one flight. EU countries, UK, France, and Belgium, use a common flight. In Africa, Libyan students, the Libyan authorities negotiated with Air Algiers, and the Algerians evacuated their students on behalf of the Libyan government. So that excuse they gave was not tenable. I just think that we were not up to the task. We didn't show enough empathy, and the attempt to do post-facto rationalization and propaganda, which is all fake news. In any case, you didn't evacuate your nationals from Wuhan. Did it prevent the virus from being imported? So many importations have taken place. Now, as we speak, look at
so
where
you're
we
saying
are,
what?
over 2,700. It was
close.
a bad decision, and we must resolve as a country that never again, no government, no Ghanaian government should be proud that it left its people in harm's way. It is not done. It's an indictment on the present leadership.
I have a statement here from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that was issued within the period, and it's indicating, it says the Chancery and officers of the Ghana mission in China are in touch with our students in Wuhan, and their upkeep is in safe hands.
Upkeep in safe hands. These were all statements that were clearly far from the facts.
Were you in touch with the Ghanaian students there?
I was in touch with them. I was speaking to them every day. They tell me that all they got was a Skype communication with one official from the embassy.
But they were being kept in isolation, weren't they?
No.
They were being kept in confined areas.
No.
As part of rules that the Chinese government were part of the restrictions
on their campuses.
To ensure that there was no spread of coronavirus.
On their campuses. On their campuses. On their campuses. Not that the Ghanaian government had made special provision for them. No. On their campuses. They were at the mercy of the university authorities. Talk to them. Talk to them. And as they were in that solitary confinement on their campuses, every day they saw the Tunisian students being evacuated. They saw Algerian students being evacuated. They saw Moroccan students. They saw their counterparts from Libya being evacuated. They saw their counterparts from Mauritania being evacuated. They saw the Western nations. Major evacuation. Do you know that as we speak, Roland, are you aware that as we speak, U.S. nationals are being evacuated from Ghana?
Yes.
Are you aware?
Just over the weekend,
yes.
The High Commissioner for the United Kingdom, right here in Ghana, said chartered flights were available.
Fantastic.
That citizens of the UK should also get in touch. Yes.
Fantastic.
Let me tell you somebody who is proud, the Vice President of our Republic. And we'll bring you a sneak peek into what he chastised the NDC and the opposition leader for by way of criticism and the information that was churned out in a Facebook interaction that the flag bearer of the NDC and former President John Dramani Mahama gave by way of his own analysis of investment that had been made by his government and what so far has been done by the current NPP administration led by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The Vice President, we take an inset, and when we come back, we'll get some reactions from Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who is our guest right here on the show.
According to Dr. Bawumia, President Akufo-Addo has demonstrated leadership and competence better than the former presidents who failed to properly manage Dumsor.
If you want to test the robustness of an economy, you test it in a time of crisis. Thankfully, we have had two crises. Under the NDC, there was an internally generated crisis, which was Dumsor. Under the presidency of Nana Akufo-Addo, there has been an externally generated crisis, which has been the global coronavirus pandemic. I just want you to ask yourselves, how have these two crises been managed? The Dumsor crisis, which crippled this economy for 4 years. What were the mitigating measures offered to businesses and individuals during Dumsor? This was an internally generated crisis. So the difference couldn't be more stark between the leadership under a crisis under the Dumsor and that under the coronavirus epidemic. So I ask a simple question. Who will you trust in a time of crisis?
He added, contrary to claims that the Akufo-Addo-led administration has achieved very little during its time in office, there is a lot of evidence to challenge that argument.
If you look at the data in terms of macroeconomic performance in any economy, since the year 2000, the tenure of the former president was the worst in terms of outcomes in macroeconomic performance. That's the data, it's not me saying it. The banking system was weak. Unemployment was rising. Our national health insurance was back to cash and carry. We had 4 years of doomsor with its devastating impact on our economy. And Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took over the reins of government in 2017. After just over 3 years in office, he's been able to manage the transformation of this country, and we have been able to perform much, much better than the situation we inherited. In fact, the data is very clear. And so my humble advice to former President Mahama is to take a look at the data. This is not Green Book data. This is just the data, right? Take a look at the data before you speak.
And you, Mr. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, posted this on your Twitter handle. You said, in opposition, you will sell hope. In power, your work sell you. You can't apply the same opposition strategy when you have been in power for more than 3 years and expect that the people will take you serious. Dr. Bawumia must understand this. What did you mean by this?
Absolutely, Roland. When you are in power, your strategy must be different. We have known Dr. Bawumia since the MPP opposition days to like to slug it out, to do the old-fashioned politics of comparing records and taking down opponents and dishing it out. But when you come to power, you have an opportunity to execute all of what you say you will do. The promises you made to the people contained in your manifesto becomes a social contract, and you must be seen focusing attention on delivering on your manifesto pledges. You don't maintain that same strategy. That's why I said that in opposition, you sell hope. In power, your works sell you. So you don't have to be so belligerent and boisterous and always out to slug it out with your opponents. So that's why I put out that tweet. But let me say more fundamentally that this is not the time for old-fashioned, cheap, petty, jocular politics. It's not the time for that. We are in the middle of a pandemic. As we speak, more than 3.5 million people in the world have contracted this virus. It has turned our world upside down. More than 250,000 people in the world have died. If you come to Ghana, as we speak, the number of infected cases is more than 2,700. More than 2,700. There are very few countries that are ahead of us in Africa. If you look at our current numbers, very few countries. Only South Africa, Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco. Very few countries are ahead of us in Africa. 18 people have died, and the fear is that many more will die. Your frontline health workers are getting infected. The Ghana Medical Association has announced that 13 of their colleagues have been infected. As we speak, one of them has died. One of them who was central to our response, who was playing a major role, Professor Jacob Plangiru, director of the Academy of Surgeons and Physicians. I mean, a very, very...
He was not in clinical frontline. You have to make that clear.
A consultant who was...
But he didn't get infected because he was on the job.
What killed him? Is that not true? What killed him? It's coronavirus. When you talk to I listened to the tributes. Yes. Doctors have said how he was guiding them. He's a consultant. Of course, he's not in the front line. Great. He's not in the. He's not a hospital.
So it's not been publicly said that he got infected from any disease because he was at the front line in a clinical position.
Nobody has said that. Okay. Nobody has said that. Let me be clear.
So can we put your statement into perspective?
Let me be clear. What I have said is that coronavirus has killed Jacob Plangiru. That has been put out. Are you contesting that? That has been confirmed. 13 other doctors, according to the Ghana Medical Association, have been infected. There is a lot of anxiety, genuine fear and panic. We all cherish our lives. So this is not the time. And the paradox, Roland, is that we are told that the vice president just finished chairing a coronavirus coordinating meeting. And when he had the opportunity to address the press after that meeting, he said nothing about how we are managing, containing, limiting this pandemic.
He said because it is public information.
He said nothing
what
about
government
that.
does, there's constant briefing each week.
And at the time the vice president spoke, a few hours thereafter, our case count moved from the region of 2,100 to over 2,700. The same day, yesterday. And the vice president was not averting his mind to what matters to the people. Go out there, Roland, talk to the average Ghanaian. I engage Ghanaians a lot. My constituents call me always. They are disgusted at what the vice president did. On your own portal, you can read the comments when you put out the story. This is not the time for this old-fashioned, hardcore, jocular politics. It's not the time for that. At this time, we should all be coming together.
Who and who should be coming together?
All the political parties. Everybody, regardless of your creed, your religion, your political affiliation,
if that is
ideology.
the case, why is it that we have the NDC having a separate
together.
team of COVID experts who also could have, if we wanted to have a synchronized means by which we can fight this, perhaps supporting government in its fight instead of having a separate team?
I'm glad you raised this matter. When the COVID team was outdoored, read their statement. They said the team has been set up to assist government's effort. As I speak to you, at least 3 memoranda has been sent to the government team. They have had 2 meetings that I know of. So it was not a team set up. And again, that is another propaganda that must be dispelled. It was not a team set up to run a parallel government. Not at all. It was a technical team set up, first of all, to advise us as a party. They are the experts. We must have a position on this matter, know what to tell our members and all of that. Even our manifesto. This has altered a lot of things. The manifesto must change. Your economic recovery program after this pandemic must be more bold and must be more robust than you will have done if there was no pandemic. So you need your best brains to be put together, especially those who have expertise in these matters. And they didn't say that they have been put together to oppose or to fight government. It's to assist, to complement. And they've been having meetings. They've sent a memorandum. When the president invited our party, the national chairman himself, together with the COVID team, went for the meeting. That should tell you that we are conducting ourselves in good faith. So what was Dr. Bawumia doing yesterday? And what is even more shocking, Roland, so shocking, is that Dr. Bawumia compares this crisis, whose effect, as Professor Kwame Nkrumah has said, the effect of this crisis, the assessment of this crisis is about human lives. Who has been infected? Who is dying? And you compare this crisis with Dumso. Shocking. If the vice president wanted to do a genuine, intellectually honest comparison, Dumso under the NDC is not the one and only Dumso we have had. There was Dumso under President Kufuor. Why didn't he compare like with like? Compare Dumso under Mahama with Dumso under President Kufuor. Then we would take you serious. Even though I argue forcefully that this is not even the time to do that. Then he says that we challenge the NDC to tell us what one social mitigation they gave Ghanaians during Dumso. What social mitigation did President Kufuor give Ghanaians during the doomsday of 2005 to 2008.
Is the Vice President not referring to rebates that have been given to consumers for electricity and free water supplies, among many other related
The Vice President is fundamentally out of order. He engages.
You are saying he's comparing apples to oranges?
Yes, he engages in intellectual dishonesty when he compares apples with oranges. Compare doomsday with doomsday. Doomsday, if you check our energy history, has been a 7 to 10 year cycle since the 1980s. So there are many doomsdays you can compare, and you can compare like with like. So the
longest in our history.
So the Vice President cannot say. The Vice President cannot say that he didn't know that there are other doomsdays he could have compared. But in any case, look, Roland, what are the claims the Vice President is making? That this economy is robust? This economy?
Based on figures not coming from the Bank of Ghana alone, the Statistical Service also furnished to the IMF and the World Bank and the other Bretton Woods institutions by the Ministry of Finance. And the accolades that the President and his economic management team have been getting the last 3 years, based on what the macroeconomic indicators are. What else can you say?
Look, let me first of all, Roland, say that I am only forced to respond to the Vice President because you want me to. It's something I do reluctantly. Because you see, I do not want to be seen contradicting myself. I have said that this is not the time for the kind of politics the Vice President engaged in. So let me just say very reluctantly that we have all seen how robust this economy is. When this pandemic broke, I was in Parliament when the health minister came to present what was our preparedness measures. At the time, we needed 35 million cedis. The health minister returned to Parliament to inform us that government has been only able to provide 2.5 million cedis out of the 35 million cedis we needed to prepare as a country. Government struggled. The health minister, the records are here, came to Parliament to tell us that only 2.5 million cedis has been found. Then you remember that when the first two cases, government clearly had been caught flat-footed, exposed. They were not taking the matter serious. They had refused to evacuate students in Wuhan. They had refused to come up with the 35 million cedis needed. WHO had come and issued a report that, look, government, you have to find that 35 million cedis. You remember when WHO came and conducted their country assessment, said, government of Ghana, look for that 35 million cedis and prepare. And they analyzed all kinds of sectors and said, look, case management, zero, facilities, coordination, communication, public education, all of that. Give us percentage. Then please,
how does this compare with the accolades that the President has been getting for managing this crisis over the last couple of...
If I may.
Before we wrap up, I give you just 3 minutes.
If I may. You couldn't come up with 2.5 million Ghana cedis. Then you announce that you have asked the finance minister to set aside $100 million after our first two cases was confirmed. We were in Parliament when the finance minister came. To our shock, he has now applied to the World Bank for the $100 million. An economy which you say is robust, you don't have reserves, you don't have contingency for an emergency situation like this. As we speak, we have had to rely on the World Bank for $100 million.
And we're not alone.
As we speak.
There are many other countries that are also dependent on the Bretton Woods.
They have not claimed, they don't have their Vice President coming out in the middle of a pandemic beating his chest about how robust this economy is. An economy that could not come up with 35 million cedis, could not come up with $100 million. An economy that has had to go back to the IMF for $1 billion. An economy that had to deplete the stabilization fund. Are you aware, Roland, that the stabilization fund created by the Mills Mahama administration, President Mahama grew the stabilization fund to some $300 million. This government has had to take $200 million out of it. President Mahama reset. So President Mahama, who you are accusing today and saying he did nothing.
Duly backed by regulations and amendments that you all agreed to in Parliament.
It is President Mahama's money he left in the stabilization fund. It's President Mahama's hospitals.
It is Ghana's money.
The University
of Ghana's money.
Yes, it's Ghana's money.
Right.
But Bawumia, is he using his own money to run the economy? The University of Ghana Medical Center, the Ridge Hospital, the Bank Hospital. People are asking.
Mr. Kujetu Ablakwa, that would have to be another debate for another day.
You are aware, you are aware, Roland, that the hashtag, God bless John Mahama has been trending since this pandemic broke.
Former Deputy Minister of Education and ranking Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. And thank you for passing through the studio today. Great discussion. I hope that all of us have had some speaking points to occupy us for the next few hours of the day as well. But again, get relevant and interactive. Facebook, it's where we've been streaming this as well, just in case you're not in front of your screens watching. Joy News on TV is there. Go subscribe and go like the pages, not only on Facebook, but also we have a channel on YouTube as well, and let us know what you think about all the conversation that has been going on right here in the studio. But in the meantime, it has emerged that poor eyesight of some Ghanaian drivers is contributing to more road traffic accidents being recorded in Ghana. Now, in the first quarter of this year alone, the country recorded some 3,494 accidents, through which some 595 lives were lost, and almost 3,800 getting injured in the process, seriously. Now, in our continuous search for solutions to reverse this trend, head of the Department of Optometry at the University of Cape Coast, Dr. Bet Wedukusi, wants government to take a decision on drivers with poor sight but still carrying lives on the road. We'll bring you the story.
I was saying earlier that we seem not to have placed much premium on the aspect of eye health and how that contributes to road safety, road traffic accident. Is it an area, an issue when it comes to accident?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it is really an issue because if you look at the regulations, we have visual standards for driving, and the DVLA Act speaks clearly to it. Unfortunately, as you have said, in all the reportage, we seem to have ignored that angle. Mainly because people feel that really the rates, the contribution from eye may not be an issue. But it is an issue because studies that we have done here at the University of Cape Coast clearly points to some drivers actually reporting that it was as a result of the accidents, were as a result of their vision. One, it could have been related to poor judgment of distance or dazzling from lights, and there has been some reports in some of the studies that we have done. So for us, even if it is one person dying as a result of visual failure, it is an issue for us to begin to look at.
And in earlier conversation, you were talking about the reason we have standards, because it's an issue, that's why we have standards.
Yeah.
Let's go through the standards we have for that in Ghana.
All right, so in Ghana, you are looking at visual acuity for anybody, whether you are like a learner or you are a driver or you want to go for renewal. The law says that your binocular vision, which has to do with how your two eyes see, the visual acuity, which talks about how well objects can be seen in terms of size. Your visual acuity, if you went to an eye clinic and you were reading this chart, we expect that you should be able to read up to this level.
That is the 12.
Up to the 12.
12, okay.
So your two eyes should be able to see a minimum of 612.
Okay.
This, if you are reading this at a distance of 6 meters,
okay,
you should be able to read up to this level or better. Right? That is what the law says for the two eyes. So that is one of the regulations. The second regulation talks about your visual field. That is, if you are looking straight ahead, horizontally, to what extent can you see from things that are coming from afar? So it talks about 120-degree horizontal, that there should be no defect in your sight, in your field of view. So that is the second one. Then the third one talks about what we call the tunnel vision. That there are some people who suffer this defect called tunnel vision. Just being in terms of the layman's explanation, we say that you will not be able to see anything coming from your side until that object is within your line of vision. Your visual axis within your line of vision. So anything that is around you, technically you don't perceive it, you don't see it until the thing is within your sight, your line of sight. So that is what we call tunnel vision. So the law says that if you suffer from such a tunnel vision, it is automatic, no, you cannot drive, because driving you will make use of peripheral vision. So these are the three key things, and the law stipulates that you should have an eye test that is certified by an optometrist or an ophthalmologist. These are the two.
Does it mean the eye test must be done at the hospital?
Logistically, it becomes difficult for you to say that every test should be done at the hospital. But if you look at the implication of the law, then it means that if we are going to have on-site testing, which is currently what is happening, DVLA has acquired some vision testers, and that is what they are using. We have done an analysis of the vision tester. It can do most of the things that is required to be done. It can do visual acuity, color vision, contrast sensitivity, and a host of stereopsis and a host of other tests that is even not prescribed in law, but are important. And I think as we go through, I'll mention them, some of the things that we really need to do, which are not being done. I think the difficulty now that we have is the people who are operating this machine, because they seem not to understand a lot of the tests that needs to be done. So currently, it is only the first part of the law, which is the visual acuity, that is being implemented. So you go in there, you read, and you pass based on just the vision, which just measures how well you can see targets based on their size. That is all. Any other parameter is not being assessed. The little bit about it is that if indeed somebody can tell whether you have a defect at the back of your eye, just by doing visual acuity, it cannot be assessed.
Really?
So then that becomes a problem, because then somebody will need to pick an ophthalmoscope machine to go through your eye and see the back of the eye and see if there is any defect.
But what the examination we go through at the DVLA, is that not what they look for?
Basically, no, because nobody does internal eye examination at DVLA. Nobody does that. And it precisely maybe due to logistical constraints and all that. But nobody does internal eye examination. Nobody does visual field assessment at DVLA. But the law says that you must, as a matter of necessity, do visual field assessment. And visual field assessment can be done simply by trained professionals, even with fingers. With fingers, I can sit and just check and see whether if I'm bringing a target from the side, you can really see, or even with a pen. But this is not being done. So that is a problem that we have at the DVLA.
And but we have hundreds of people going for driving license almost every day or weekly in this country. And if we are not getting this test done accurately as it must be, then I think we are doomed, though.
Yes, I think that we have the laws, but some way, somehow we have managed to go around it. And I think that we need to go back to the conversation and look at how best we can really implement the laws that we have. Recently, we had a partnership with South Africa where we were trying to review their driving laws, their testing that are done and all that, which we came out with one position paper on it. So I think that it is important, especially even if you are talking of tunnel vision. If you have not been assessed, your visual field has not been assessed, nobody can look at and say that you have tunnel vision. I cannot just look at your face and say that you have tunnel vision. No. And especially in our part of the world, Ghana, where glaucoma, we are one of the leading countries with glaucoma, high prevalence of glaucoma. So we are picking young people at the age of 20, 18 and above with glaucoma. And glaucoma is one of the culprits when it comes to tunnel vision. So once you have glaucoma, you are likely, the end result is it starts from the periphery. So your periphery begins to fade away. You are not seeing periphery until your vision is just what is remaining is just at the center. Now for this person, if you are going to rely on only visual acuity, because the person can see at the center, the moment you put his forehead into the vision tester, he can read, and so you will pass the person. But you notice that if you went further to do other assessment, the person will fail. And the law says that such a person must not be given the license. But unfortunately, we are not doing that. And indeed, in some of the studies that we have done, we have found people who are monocularly blind, blind in one eye, but they are driving, you know. And these are published data already. They are there. Monocularly blind, even though the law, again, that's the defect of the law. The law doesn't say that we should test one eye. The law says that both eyes should be able to read at 612. So that is a defect of the law. But it has implications because once you are driving with one eye, your visual field reduces. Because when you have the combined effect of the two eyes, it extends your field of view. When you have just one eye, your field reduces. So in terms of being able to judge distance, what you call depth perception, your ability to judge distance also gets impaired. So if you want to overtake, the most likely thing, instead of you looking ahead and just using your peripheral vision to look through the driving mirror, the side mirror, to see whether a car is following you or not, you really cannot. You have to actually turn to look at the side mirror, and at the same time, make a conscious effort to look at the car ahead of you. And before you can move.
So there's going to be like about 30-second blindness.
That is it. So then you have a problem when you have to drive with one eye. So these are the defects of the law that we have, and we need to find a way around it to begin to deal with it.
So as we embarking on this campaign, Arrive Alive, and all the issues that we must think of and get solutions to, the issue of the iron driving, how much premium must we place on that, and what would be your suggestions?
I think that we need to take that as one of our prime objective and place the highest premium that we want. Because you see, as I said earlier, if it is even just one death as a result of vision, then we have a problem.
And here's the case, you've done studies that suggested that drivers who were
And that's head of optometry at the University of Cape Coast in an interaction with my colleague Seth Kwame Boateng on our Arrive Alive campaign. Please keep safe, stay alive, and remember we've had issues before COVID still staring us in the face. One of them, road accident. So please check your eyes and stay alive. Now, the immune system is your body's great defender. It helps stop incoming attacks from viruses and bacteria. It helps your cells bounce back after illness. That's why, especially when viruses and bugs are making the rounds, you should pay attention to your immune system. One of the best ways to care for your immune system and help make it stronger is with food, but not just any food. Our focus today is on eggs. Adequate protein intake is important to support immune response and are a great way to do this since they also contain nutrients. So let's talk about eggs. And you've heard that eating eggs enables your immune system to be really, really strong and also protects you from viruses and bacteria. So joining us via Zoom for a conversation on eggs is Everything Eggs. Is Nana Ajay. She's a registered dietitian. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Mama B.
Yes, good morning. Do I get the sense that we're going back and forth with the usefulness of eggs? Sometimes you are afraid to eat more than one?
Yes, I think we are making progress, really, because the doubt was created by some myths that were around. Unfortunately, science sometimes it's not very straightforward because research keeps going on. Science changes, findings come out. So till recently, a few years ago, when it was established that eggs do not affect our health in the way we had always thought they were affecting us, people were quite skeptical about egg intake, but we are making progress.
So now we can eat as plenty, is that it? Like you can just any amount that you can, your system can take?
Well, that depends. So for most people, about 70% of people, your body will not respond to the dietary cholesterol. That's the cholesterol that is in the egg. So for about 70% of people, we are safe with eating as many eggs, if I'll put it that way. However, You may not know if you are part of the 30% that will be, we call them hyper-responders to dietary cholesterol. So we say that to stay safe, it's better if you are sticking to 1 yolk per day. But for the egg whites, it's just protein, so you can do as many as you want. So if you want to do your chibom, restrict yourself to 1 yolk and then add as many egg whites as you want.
So the problem is the yolk?
I wouldn't call it a problem per se, because if you say it's a problem, then that's where people tend to avoid it. The issue is that the yolk contains saturated fat and some amounts of cholesterol, dietary cholesterol. In fact, it contains about 220 and your body needs about 300 in a day. So if you're eating more than one, then you're taking in more dietary cholesterol than your body needs. However, for most people, your body is not going to respond to that. It's going to be digested, it's going to be broken down, so it will come out. So we are safe with sticking with 1 yolk and then eating as many of the egg whites as you want.
Okay, so you can do the chibum, but just restrict yourself to 1 yolk.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's link it to boosting the immune system. I don't know, how does it work?
So one thing I must say is that immunity is not something that you attain in a day. So you cannot eat one food today and expect that if you come in contact with a virus or bacteria, based on what you have eaten today, your body is going to fight it. It's something that you build over time. That's why we say you build immunity. So you need good nutrition over a period of time. And one important way of building your immunity is by eating healthy. There are certain nutrients that your immune system needs to function well, but they have to be available ahead of time so that at the time when the infection or the bacteria or whatever it is your body is fighting comes in, the body's soldiers are already prepared for it. You don't wait for war to come and then you now rally your soldiers to go and fight. You plan and then you execute. So that's how the immune system works. You need to provide the nutrients ahead of time. That's why healthy eating is about consistency. You have to make sure you are eating healthy consistently so that your body is healthy. You are in that state that your body can fight whatever infections.
The quantity of eggs you could take, is it same for children and adults?
Yeah, same for children and adults. For children, we are restricting to 1 yolk, like I said. But you know, some children cannot even chew their meats and the fish. They like to pick these pieces out. So eggs are a good way you can include quality protein in a child's diet. And when I say quality protein, we have proteins that the body is able to absorb very easily, and eggs are one of those proteins. The body absorbs almost everything. So for a child who is a picky eater, for example, eggs are easy to just whisk into their meals or incorporate into their meals without the child being able to take out. So you stick to 1 yolk and then you can use the egg whites.
Okay.
But because of allergies, for children, you want to start slow. You want to start by introducing the eggs maybe around a year when the child has been introduced to other foods and you are sure the child is not allergic to the basic foods, then you can start adding eggs. You don't add eggs when you start feeding your child at 6 months.
Okay, great. All right, so I want us to talk about what you could do with the eggs, because we're talking about chibum and it may not be somebody's preferred choice. I would usually do the fried eggs. I'll cook the eggs sometimes, and I'll also make pancakes with the eggs. But we need variety. We need a lot more than that. You are the dietitian. What can we do with the eggs?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, in Ghana, if we are not frying, then we are boiling the eggs. But there are several things that you can do with eggs. So today I'll share a few twists you can add to your eggs so that you get something different. And especially because children are home, it's important to give them variety so that they don't start rejecting your boiled eggs at table. Okay, so one twist you can put on the traditional fried egg is to do what we call a cloud egg. So cloud eggs look like clouds. They have a white, fluffy appearance, and you achieve that by whisking just the egg white. So when you crack the egg, you separate the yolk from the egg white, Then you add some salt to the egg white, and then you need a whisk or a handheld mixer to do that.
Okay.
So you whisk the white part, because that's the image showing. When you whisk it over time, it becomes firm and it blows up and it has a shiny appearance on top. So once you get that, yes, you'll be able to scoop it out easily. So you spread a tray, an oven tray with some parchment paper, and then you scoop the white part on the tray, and you make a hole in the center with a spoon. And then you just pop it into the oven for about 3 minutes. You take it back out and put the egg yolk in it. So this is the way the white people usually like their egg yolks. They like it runny. But if you want it firm, like a lot of us prefer, you can keep it in the oven for a longer time and the yolk becomes firmer. But if you cook it for a very long time, the yolk is not going to appear this yellow. The color is going to change, because then it will overcook.
Okay, I like this twist, but do you put the bread in the oven, or this is toasted separately?
This is toasted separately, so you just put the cloud egg on top.
Fantastic.
Another way you can, if it's adults that are eating it, you can chop some herbs. You can use basil, what we call apokobesa. You just chop some, or if you have parsley, you can chop some, mix it in the white part when it's ready and stiff, and then you bake it.
Okay, and you keep it in the oven for how long?
Just about 3 minutes before you put in the yolk and 3 minutes after. So it's just about 6 minutes. It's a fast dish to prepare.
I'm going to try it this weekend. Okay.
All right.
What else can you make?
And then you can make a French toast. So if you know what a French toast is, it's just the bread soaked in a mixture of your eggs and milk. Or if you are the Fit Farm type, you can use yogurt instead of the milk. So you whisk the egg with the yogurt, and then you slice the bread and just soak it in it. And then you fry it in a little bit of olive oil. And that is it. But for a twist, you can add some cinnamon into the egg mixture so that it has this brownish appearance and it tastes really good.
Any particular type of bread that goes well with the French toast?
It's a matter of preference and your health goals. So if you're trying to be healthy, then I would recommend you use whole grain bread. So you can use whole wheat bread or other whole grain breads. Oat bread, for example. But if you are going in for a treat, you can use sugar bread for the sweet taste. Or if you prefer butter bread, that's fine. This one, they've sprinkled some syrup on it. But you can
I was just going to ask, is that syrup that I see dripping there?
Yeah, it's syrup, but you can use honey if you prefer.
Okay.
Honey would give you, honey is better because the syrup tends to be refined sugar. So honey would be better.
Okay, great. What else do we have?
We have what we call a frittata.
Okay.
So a frittata is an egg, cooked eggs with something inside, like a stuffing. So you can do a vegetable frittata. You chop up your vegetables, you put them in a frying pan with a little bit of oil, stir fry it, and then you whisk your eggs separately.
Okay.
Then you mix everything up and then put them in a frying pan. So it's going to come out. It has to be a lot so that it looks as thick as it is. So this is when you're having like a family meal. So you put the vegetables, add the eggs to it. If you want some herbs, this one has parsley on it. You can use that, or you can use our local basil. And then you cook it on very low heat so that it doesn't burn. So you cover it, give it about 6 minutes. Just when it's done, you don't cook it till it's completely firm. When you still have some runny parts in it, you turn off the heat and keep it covered. The heat will cook through. So when you come back in about 10 minutes, everything will be set and firm. And then you can eat it.
Okay, Nana, you have to go over this again. I'm a bit confused. Initially, it looked like, when you're frying eggs and you're adding vegetables, it looked like that.
No,
but it suddenly looks like a pudding.
Yeah, it looks thick because it's a lot of eggs with vegetable stuffing. So you have that height. So you stir fry. So you need a lot of vegetables. If you're going to rely on only the eggs, you are going to have to use a lot of eggs to achieve.
So what kind of vegetables? What kind of vegetables do you ideally use?
It's a matter of preference. So I would recommend that you have some greens in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can use lettuce, or if you want cabbage, you can use that. And then you have your bell peppers. You can also use aubergines, the eggplant.
Okay.
Or even garden eggs. If you're using garden eggs, then you just stir fry it for a longer time so that it's cooked before you mix it in the egg. So you stir fry everything, the vegetables together. This one has sweet corn in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so you stir fry everything, and then you mix it with the whisked eggs. And then you pour it back into your pan that you are using.
Okay. Do you use anything to base the pan? Like, is there some kind of oil?
Oil.
Okay.
Yeah, you use oil. You use oil. So before, you are going to use oil to stir fry your vegetables. And then you pour the vegetables into a bowl, whisk your eggs, pour it over it, add a little bit of salt. If you want pepper, you can add pepper, the powdered one, or you just chop your chili peppers and add it. And then you mix everything up, and then your pan would have some oil already. If it doesn't have, you can add a few drops, and then you pour everything back on low heat. Then you cover it for about 6 minutes.
Okay.
And then you turn off the heat while some parts are cooked and some parts are still running. Then you leave it so that the heat will cook through for about 10 more minutes.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I like this. I like this. Is there anything else?
Yes, you can also do deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs?
Yes.
Okay.
So deviled eggs are eggs with the yolk scooped out and some sort of filling in there. Usually, if you are eating deviled eggs in a restaurant, for example, it has a lot of calories because they add mayonnaise, butter, and a lot of other things. But you can make your own healthier deviled eggs using avocados.
Okay.
So this has the avocados. You scoop the avocado fruit into a bowl. Then you boil the eggs. You have to make them hard boiled so that you can scoop the yolk out. So you take the yolks out, add it to the avocado, and then you can add a bit of yogurt if you have. If you don't have, that's okay. If you have lime juice too, you can squeeze a little bit of lime juice in there. And then you just use a fork to beat everything so that you get a paste like is shown in the picture. Then you use a spoon. It depends on how you want the appearance to be. You can use a spoon if you want a quick thing. Then you just scoop into the eggs and you eat it. Or if you want it to look fancy like the first picture that was shown, then you have to use a plastic bag. You put the paste in a plastic bag, and then you cut the end with scissors so that you can pipe the filling into the eggs to get a nice appearance.
I think that's more fancy. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more fancy, and you can put some of your herbs on it like was shown in the picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nana.
And then the last one is you can do stuffed bell peppers.
Okay.
So what we like to call sweet peppers in Ghana, you can actually fill them with vegetables and eggs and bake them. So just like you will be doing your frittata, you stir fry the vegetables. Then this time you scoop the vegetables into the bell pepper. So you cut it in half, take the seeds out, and then you pour your vegetables in there. You break an egg onto it, and then you put some cheese, grated cheese on top, and you just bake it. But you have to cover this with aluminum foil so that the top doesn't burn.
Okay.
And you have a dish ready to go.
Are you baking this for how long?
You can give it about 10 minutes. If you overcook it, so you have this one, you have to keep checking on it so that it doesn't wilt too much. If the pepper overcooks, it becomes very soft and it falls apart. So you just have to keep an eye on it. Once the top looks firm, it looks white, you know that it's cooking well. And then, but basically in about 10 minutes, it should be done. At about 180 degrees in the oven.
I like everything you've shared with us this morning. Yeah.
I hope you try them. They're all tasty and they're healthy. I tried to share healthy recipes because for a lot of us, we are home. We are not moving around.
True.
So if we are going to be indulging in a lot of unhealthy stuff, we will come out and we'll all be bloated.
You're right.
Yes.
And the kids get bored doing, eating the same stuff the same way. So, well, thank you very much for sharing these alternatives with us. I love it. I'll let my viewers also try it, and then we'll give you the feedback. But sure,
definitely.
Yeah. So that's Nana J. She's a registered dietitian joining us and telling us about the effectiveness of eggs, the role it plays in boosting your immune system, but also what else you can make with eggs. So don't do all chibum, chibum, chibum all the time. Do something new. Yeah. Stay with us. We've got show business coming your way.